Two. Alright.
Okay, good morning once again, guys.
Good morning, good morning.
Right, we're here with the Spry Live, and this week's topic is why are you still fat? What's happening to this? Or why are you still overweight? Some people are often offended by some of the terms we use. We're talking about body fat. It's not fat shaming. We're literally
By no means.
describing the terms as they are. So we love this segment to be conversational. So we invite you all to communicate and use social media the right and proper way. Not to keep it to yourself, but to share it with your friends. Right? Not to come and watch after the live because you don't want us to see you. Right? That's not how social media works, you see. It is social. We are supposed to interact with each other. So let's do the right thing, okay, and not gatekeep information, but share information so we can have a better, stronger society. Because at the end of the day, the reason why we're doing this is to help this country become its fullest potential, right? One important form of leadership is to take care of number one, right? Because you only have one body. You will never get another one. So within the subject area of why you're not losing weight, today we're focusing on the international side of nutrition. Yesterday we focused on the Jamaican side of nutrition. Today we're focusing on the international side of nutrition, right? And the influences it's had on the local diet and what has happened over time with the local diet, consequently because of the globalization of our nutrition. So without no further ado, Jason,
Yes.
you want to kick this one off this morning
Definitely.
about the international influences?
Definitely, sir. And may I hit you with a surprising fact? There are actually more Jamaicans off the island than on the island.
Wow.
Which
There you
means
go.
that, everyone has received a barrel at some point or received something out
Exactly.
of a barrel that
There you
is
go.
not indigenous.
Exactly. So the barrel is a gift from above, as some of you may see it. But the barrel comes
Manna
with
from the sky.
manna from the sky, but it comes with a whole lot of problems. These
Yes, it
barrels,
does, it does.
right? And these barrels have been coming onto our shores now for the last
Yes.
40, 50 years since mass migration has taken
Taken
place.
free, scrutiny free.
Right. Some say we have non-edibles inside of them that we shouldn't even have on this island.
Yeah.
And they're coming in from our barrels. But on a serious note, the barrels has introduced to Jamaicans a lot of foreign products which has not left the shores, but they have stayed here.
Yes.
Simple things like the likes of Oreos and Doritos. All these international acclaimed brands have found their ways on our island, and they've been coming through barrels. Now they're here on our supermarket shelves.
And Jay, surprisingly enough, when you take the tackling approach that we tend to as health agents with the bureaucratical standardization and so on, we have found that most of these items are banned in certain countries
Right.
who are diligent enough to carry out these checks.
Right, particularly in Europe.
Particularly.
From actually doing some work in Denmark around health and wellness, Denmark is probably the most strict in Europe. In fact, Denmark does
Very
not.
stern.
Right, they do not allow nitrates, which is one of the preservatives they use on bacon. It's not allowed in Denmark. The nitrate allows the meat. It's not just bacon, but it allows red meat to stay red. So what you find generally when you go into a supermarket and the meat has been there for some time, it naturally starts to get a brownish color. And in order for supermarkets to maintain their profit margins, they do not want to throw these meats out. So they have a preservative that reintroduces the color. Some places use blood, but it is a process that they go through. Nitrate is one of the common ones that they then use to preserve meat.
Well, eventually all these grounds will be covered respectively, getting to the root of each and every. With nitrate now coming up into the equation, we really want to stick a pin on that word that will be used frequent, as we will be tackling as nitrate. We have positive nitrate usage, negative nitrate usage.
Right.
So when we ask the question, why aren't we losing weight? for us, the nitrate speaks a lot to us. We lose nitrate during feces, we gain back during what we take in, and when it breaks down, that's when it trickles down to how the nitrate is balancing, positively, negatively. But like I said, we will be approaching that. But whilst we're on the subject of why aren't we losing weight, we can brainstorm as we have heard it all. Brainstorm in relation to the excuses we have heard, such as dietary choices, lack of exercise, habits, bad habits rather, medical condition, which tends to be one of the more grasped
Right.
or comforting. Oh, my
Right.
doctor says.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a myriad of reasons why people claim they're not losing weight. They don't have the time now. They're waiting to join a gym. Various reasons, but today we really want to centralize our foods that has come onto our shores and has negatively contributed towards our obesity challenge. We're seeing very young kids going off to school in the mornings in their uniforms like Humpty Dumpty. Yeah? Parents, it's not a joke. One thing we need to realize in this society, right? In this world, if you overconsume food, you can't hide it. It's going to be stored in your adipose tissue or in the subcutaneous fat. You're going to see it. We're going to see it. You can't hide. If you do hide it, if you then become what we call tofu, which is thin on the outside, fat on the inside, we can also see the stomach protruding, because oftentimes persons who are still slim and claim they're carrying no risks, but they still maintain an unhealthy diet, and they are gaining weight, but they are not seeing it in their outward appearance. That's because it's been gained around your organs.
Yes.
Through visceral fat. Visceral fat is the fat that you can't really get rid of. The doctor can't help you there. Yeah? The plastic surgeons cannot help you with that fat. They can't really get that tissue out of the body without damaging an organ. It's very dangerous for them to do it, though some have tried. However, visceral fat, which is the fat lodged around the organs, tend to have such negative impact with the levels of toxicity that it brings into the bloodstream, because fat really, excessive amounts of body fat carries no benefit. So going back to the fundamental here that we're describing, which is the globalization of our nutritional protocols in Jamaica. Let us pick on certain foods that we have seen. Let's highlight the top 5 foods that we're seeing on our shores that are not made here, that isn't made here.
Definitely, and not just that. If we could type in a pattern of frequent popping up, such as festivities.
Right.
Festivities. I mean, we have Easter.
Well, to be fair, most of our Easter bun and cheese fiasco is made here. However, the Easter eggs and
you're right, Jay, because I'm really trying to run with the chocolate, although chocolate is really indigenous, but the old customary, the fashion as to what comprises the celebration.
Right.
So with Easter, I mean, there's a colossal. We have birthdays, of course, you know, the whole have your cake and eat it, excuse the expression.
Right.
And then we have Christmas again. And with the mention being made of the migration culture, we find that we are now celebrating 4th of July, Halloween, all these outside customs, which cause us to then
I'm glad you bring this to the forefront. Yes, we generally do consume extra calories during the festive periods, from Easter to Christmas. I would guess those are the 2 biggest ones for us in Jamaica right now. And we tend to cook up a storm during these periods, and it isn't that we are more active during these periods, not that cancels out eating correctly, because once you put the food in your bloodstream, doing intense exercise doesn't automatically erase it. You can reduce the calorie impact that it has, you can reduce the blood sugar impact that it has, but what it does to your DNA over time cannot be, well, there's no data or no science to suggest that it can be absolutely eradicated through exercise. So during these festive periods, Jason started out with Easter. Easter in most countries, hi, good morning, web relator. Thanks for joining us. Do feel free to ask any questions at any time, guys. This is to not be us just talking to you, but it's to be a discussion. So, right, as we're saying in the festive period, Easter is the one we want to start out with.
Yeah, and Jay, you know, you did phrase something there that I want us to stick a pin with, cooking up a storm. And you know, when you speak of cooking, we really want persons to have the understanding of the method of preparation. That storm that you speak of, Jay, the different variations of storm in the analogy here that we could be hit by. The frying storm is the worst.
Yes,
the baking storm.
Yeah, frying your foods for
storm.
Most of us locally is one of the worst, and that hits on probably the most detrimental ingredient that has come on our shores is the vegetable oil, right? Because it oxidizes. It is terrible. We used to have coconut oil that they used to make in the rural areas,
abundantly,
like Portland. And for some reason, they tricked you people and told you that coconut oil is bad for you because it elevates cholesterol. Yes, it does elevate cholesterol. But what cholesterol? We do have HDL, we do have LDL. LDLs, which are considered the bad cholesterols, are 5 different types. So when you talk about bad cholesterols, the particles which are big and fluffy that moves around the arteries, which we can see types like coconut oil elevates this particular particle type, is not dangerous. It doesn't really cause blockages in the arteries. It is the small, dense particles that are caused by bad fats, bad cholesterol like the omega-6s. These are the ones that are challenging. So, I mean, great point that you raised.
Definitely.
We're using the oil in everything. We're using it to fry chicken. We start using it to seal the chicken before we stew it. We start to use it to fry fish. We are preparing all our proteins. We're damaging all our proteins through using omega-6s and using seed oils to prepare them.
So the fundament of it, Jay, as you have added, is really using something that you're able to ingest. So if you're about to moisturize your skin, for example, and applying a little coconut oil and rubbing it straight on the dermal layer of the skin, that will be ingested, that will be absorbed.
Yeah, whatever you put on the skin goes into the bloodstream.
And when you look at oils that are soluble, with a solubility rate as such, when you apply heat, you find that the coconut oil is much able to sustain a higher.
Yes, it has a higher smoke point, which is what Jason is pointing to. The smoke point is how much degrees of temperature can you put to the oil before it starts to break down and damage. And coconut oil
usually gives off an odor, right? I mean, if you had a blindfold on and I was heating up oil, you could tell.
Yes, you could. There's ways to tell. Generally speaking, I did a small experiment once where I took some coconut oil to Helsha, where there's a popular place, for those of you who don't know, in Jamaica where they fry fish.
We do.
Right.
We love over there, don't we?
Right. Yeah, and I gave the persons preparing the meal the coconut oil to use, and we brought a thermometer with us, and we kept checking where the temperature would reach when the chef would naturally put the fish in the pan to fry. And yes, I mean, we can concur. He used a marker of what the oil smelled like. Though he didn't use coconut oil often at all to fry fish or other seafood, he would generally use seed oils because it's cheaper. And he said he would, the smell of the oil would definitely give away whether it's ready or whether it's burning or whether it's too hot. But in fact, I think what he means is when the oil starts to damage.
So these are detective skills that we possess from a child growing up in and around the household that we just never quite made sense of. Now we're able to put the pieces to the puzzle, make sense of it.
We have Kimoj here, not here in the gym listening to this instead of music. Yes.
That's good airways.
Glad we're engaging you. Please share with your friends and family. Don't be a gatekeeper with the information, guys. Let us use social media the right way. The more shares, the more likes, the more comments is the greater we do on these podcasts. So those of you joining us on TikTok and over on YouTube, please remember to like, comment, and share so we can grow this to get to the point that we're trying to achieve, which is to help every single Jamaican. So we've mentioned the oil. We don't want to run out of too much time.
When you look at a question like why aren't I losing fat specifically when you look at body composition,
right?
We are to help with that answer, because if we just brainstorm, we need not look any further than the bombarding of the metabolic, which is bombarded with fats, dietary fats.
Which we're just talking about one of them, which is the oil.
So that's two sources.
Right. So yes, fats and oils are generally the macronutrients for energy source, and we tend to abuse them. In Jamaica, particularly carbohydrates. I often say, if you're going to choose one for energy, choose one for energy that day. Do not try and combine the two of them.
Jay, I dare say, here's a cheeky joke. You walk into the supermarket and you see a guy scratching his chin. So you say, what can I get you? He's trying to find some carbs. Is there any trying that? Is there any effort in that? Is carbs hard to combine?
No. You see, carbohydrates is what predominantly makes up the shells. Because it's ultra processed carbs at that.
Ultra.
And that is why some of the nutrition agents or the dietitians out there, I'm a nutritionist, but I'm not bounded by anybody, you see, because of how I got my qualifications. Dietitians who are on government boards can say very little and they speak on calories only. Unfortunately, well, fortunately for me, I can go a little bit deeper and I tell you what not to eat. That knowing that there are foods out there which generally is just not good for your health. However, there are studies often produced by the same companies who create these foods, who then pass them on through the medical system, the health system, and these health workers find some reason why it still can be consumed by the human body. But let us keep on track with our discussion today. We've honed in on one particular already, which is vegetable oils coming onto our shores.
Festivities.
Let us try and educate persons now with two more. Festivities is a period of time where we consume more calories, but we want to bring to your attention the foods that are popular from overseas. Right, so we have the sodas which are on the market.
Yeah.
We have the Pepsi, we have the Coca-Cola, and we have the Mountain Dew. These comes with, on average, about 36 grams of sugar for a can. And the WHO, which is the World Health Organization.
That means that 3 cans meets the daily recommendation.
For carbohydrates. However, but 1 can, 36 grams, meets the requirement of sugar for a male. A male should be consuming no more than 36 grams of sugar per day. A female should be consuming no more than around 24 to 27 grams per day.
I'm looking at that, that's doubled.
It's doubled already. And a child should be consuming no more than 15, 16 grams of sugar per day. So what you're finding is
those numbers, people.
A 1 can, which carries 36 grams of sugar, is already over the female requirement and already double the child requirement. So essentially, we have 2 things now, the oils and the sodas.
Now the sugar remaining in the bloodstream is what we're at.
Yeah, sugar is an energy source that most of you aren't using. Let me be absolutely clear on the amount. It's not that carbs is a bad thing, because we have fibrous carbohydrates, we have starchy carbohydrates. We have carbohydrates that is a benefit for our performance and for what we do day to day recovery, right? However, most of you who are inactive, which when we go on the roads in Jamaica and we ask people the question, are you exercising? The large majority, we're looking at 9 out of 10, are saying no, they are not exercising. Therefore,
I mean, we follow patterns, you see. When we keep with the algorithms, we have very poor numbers of running clubs, walking clubs, hiking clubs, just social clubs that is of an athletic orient.
Yeah. Guys, I'm glad you touched on this point as well. When you look at the running clubs, I often run with some clubs when I'm in Miami or other parts of, even in New York, right? And you turn out to these running clubs and there are thousands of people, hundreds of people or thousands of people coming out to run or walk 3 miles. The run clubs in Jamaica, when I go up by JC, there's probably about 10 people there.
And the surprising thing is when you're overseas and you're interacting with individuals, they expect the opposite because we're an athletic nation. We're actually pitched to the globe.
Yeah.
Once we're speaking of migration,
we are doing horribly.
We're perceived as
guys,
athletic.
We are doing horribly. even our international recording artists, they're going on stage panting for life.
Panting for life.
Right? They're not even keeping fit anymore. It's the older artists that we're seeing still keeping their fitness together, and they can cross a stage left and right without gasping for breath. So we're seeing this problem throughout the society. And unfortunately, even the policemen and the policewomen, though this is a global challenge, most of them that we speak to tell us the amount of hours that they have to work, and they're not finding the time. However, it is becoming a dangerous situation for us here, where when we then turn up to the hospitals, we are seeing our people dying from lifestyle illnesses. Illnesses that can be prevented from changing their lifestyle, from being more active, just doing 30 minutes of cardiovascular training per day, and another 30 minutes of, say, strength training, and they're dying from these things. They're dying from things that are absolutely free for them to stay alive. However, you see, we are taking it for granted. As Jason pointed out, we're an island that is known for being health-known people because we perform so well at track and field.
3%ers amongst us.
I would say it's less.
Credited.
I would say it's less. I would say it's the numbers are probably easily touching 1%, because the numbers, to quantify health, let's not misconstrue this information.
Yes.
You would need to be doing at least 150 minutes of cardiovascular training per week. I've not even touched on strength training.
Or body weight management, such as yoga activities of some sort, that most persons aren't carrying out in their weekly week routine.
Right.
They're not required to do these things.
It's really just a bunch of excuses.
The weekend even worse.
Yeah, the weekends in Jamaica, we're leaving it for an abundance of comfort. Playing dominoes, drinking more liquor, is adding more calories without more activity.
And then the suspense for that Sunday afternoon preparation meal,
which is our rice and peas, fried chicken, or even 3 meats. One member reminded me at one point, a spry member told me when he was growing up, he struggled with finances and he had to live with his sister-in-law.
I mean, Jay, I don't know what most of us do. If we don't get a proper meal throughout the week, rest assured, as you were, Sunday evening.
Right. It is, yeah, it's traditional, and a lot of these traditions are hurting us rather than helping us. So this member mentions that, when he was growing up, he couldn't afford to buy oxtail from the supermarket or even from the shop if he wanted it to as box food. And he said, when he became financially free and his life improved, he got his helper.
Battling my glory.
He got his helper to prepare oxtail every day, right? Every single day he got his helper to prepare oxtail just because he could afford it. And this is a challenge that's in the Jamaican culture now.
So that
when we come out of sufferation, or we come out of not so a wealthy upbringing, and you now become the doctor that you've always wanted to be, or you now become the lawyer that you've always wanted to be, or the business owner, and you now have an extra few dollars in your pocket, you become foolish when it comes to doing the exercise or eating healthy. You now start to eat unhealthy because you can afford it, and you now don't have any time for exercise. A friend of mine said it's almost like having deep pockets and short hands when it comes to being smart on exercise. We in Jamaica are not investing back your money into paying trainers, paying coaches to train you and to exercise for better health. Even doing it yourself. We don't even need for you to hire a trainer. Just to go and walk, you don't need a trainer. The reason why some of you may end up needing a trainer is because you may hurt yourself because of the sedentary patterns that you've created. Now,
sedentary patterns that you've created.
Right.
We really want to look at being pound wise, and when I say pound, body weight, I'm referring to.
Yes.
The pounds, being wise in that sense, and not penny foolish, because the thing is, a moment on the lips is a lifetime on the hips.
Right. And guys, the reality is there. Those with extra body weight are at more risk of certain cancers, lifestyle illnesses such as hypertension, diabetes, endometriosis, for females, PCOS, insulin resistance, which leads to a lot of myriad of other issues. You are at risk.
And most of the above that you mentioned stem from
lifestyle, which is the choice of what you consume and a choice of the amount of exercise you do. However, guys, we have one more food choice to share with you of items that is coming onto our shores that never used to be here, and that's the French fry, right? Or the chips. We'll also throw the packaged potato chips in it as well, which leads us to all the choices that you're spoiled for with the extra fries or the large fries when you go. So we have gone through the oils, the vegetable oils. We've spoken on the sodas, and we are now touching the last one for you, which are the fries. These are foods that wasn't here in high numbers 50 years ago, but they're now every corner you turn. If you can't get them in the fast food chain, I'm seeing a new fast food joint now opening up in Halfway Tree. I won't call the name of it, but another one has presented itself across the road from another popular one. Yes. Hence, the reality that the demand is only growing.
Yes, Jay. Thank you for your discretion in the illustration. And amongst these anonymous, these fleets of fast food entities, I've always realized that there's one that is not here. Apparently, they have tried, and it's because of the inability to have that preservative rate maintained. Why they're not amongst us? Can you believe it?
Yes, I can. Guys, the food, as I said to you, I mean, a lot of health aid officials are compromised. They're compromised because of the people they interact with. The people that may fund their election campaigns are people who own large food companies. And that's unfortunate, and the dirty nature of politics, which is just what it is. Not that we're not here to be political, but we're commenting on what the reality is. Therefore, that is why you must do your own reading and doing your own understanding and seek professional advice that isn't biased, that isn't being funded by the person who's trying to sell the product. Because oftentimes the persons who are the ones pushing the product are the ones that can afford to spend $2 million to carry out a large cohort study to say whether this is healthy or not.
And with narratives, we try to fix to straighten as much as possible. One we have touched on now is health. Health ages. Health does ages. We have youthful age health, we have mature health, and we have impaired health. Health does go through a condition. I know we have become accustomed to thinking that health is just health as a concept, but no, health travels through variants of stages. And it's a question as to whether or not we have health. Then we can begin to discuss what stage of health do we possess.
All right, guys, we're coming to the end of this live. We'd want you to ask any questions on the topic that we've had today. Why are you still overweight? And today we touched on the international products that have come onto our shores. Jason pointed out the barrel being one of the first exposures. Everybody who got a barrel got all the goodies inside there, and they now got addicted to these items and want them on their shelves for their own convenience whenever they need it. So what has happened is we've found business opportunities and brought them in to stay forever. We also pointed out on the sodas that have come in, we have the Coca-Cola, the Pepsis, the Mountain Dew with large amounts of sugar. We've also touched on the French fries, right? And the potato chips, the fries and the potato chips, which has taken a nice product that's been around for a long time that God gave to us, which is the Irish potato. And they have added oil to it, they've added sugar to it, they've added preservatives to it. They have ruined it, right? And put it into packaging for your own convenience. And what do? You go and purchase it. And forget the Irish potato. It's going to take too long to prepare. It's going to do this and it's going to do that. Let's just find the easier solution, which in turn makes you sick in the long run. So,
why am I not losing weight?
That's the reason why you're not losing weight.
And if I'm not losing weight and I continue in this direction, I am at threat of obesity. Not to become fat. A little fat has never harmed anyone. The nation is not so much overweight as we are under muscle.
Right. So, people, you just mentioned a critical term there, which is under muscle, which points to the importance of resistance training. We used to get resistance training into our time when we were on farms more frequently, digging to plant yam, digging to plant banana trees, climbing trees to, you know, to pick fruits which built our upper body muscles. However, those of us who live in the urbanized areas now do not have access to these farms and these open land areas to develop our strength. So to have resistance training, you must attend the gym, right? For your body, your structure to stay in good strength, because you don't want to reach the 61 years old and tumbling down the stairs and can't recover from it, and all that money that you saved has to go back into operations, physiotherapy, and paying someone to come to your house to look after you. Because the average Jamaican right now, at about 61, 62, is losing their health span. They cannot independently operate without medication or aid, and the average Jamaican is dying at about 76. So that means for the last 15 years of your life, from 61 to say 76, you're spending all the money that you earned in corporate Jamaica, spending it back on a new hip, on a doctor, on somebody to come and move you around to go to the bathroom, and somebody to come and cook you meals that is basically you could have cooked yourself and kept yourself in good health.
Jay, I'm very optimistic. I'm not one that's easily discouraged. But just to look at you interacting, the whole body language, you can see the appeal, the outreach as to who the audience, the Jamaicans that you're talking to, because that's who you're talking to.
I'm talking to Jamaicans home and abroad.
Are the same set of persons who I have learned the phrase, you for drop boof, and me for drop bang.
Right.
So just, in a very understanding.
You say that one again, please, a bit louder.
You for drop boof, and me for drop bang.
Right.
So boof is not necessarily
a good thing. So all of these terms that allude to you consuming more food is really toxic, and it's perhaps one of the pointers in our whole quest that we need to perhaps look into. That, you know, don't leave the table without clearing that plate. But we have to leave this for another time, guys. We've run over for this morning.
There you go, triggering me again.
Tomorrow, join us for we continue the discussion on why you're overweight. But most important, tomorrow we focus on activity levels. Right? So join us for that discussion tomorrow, and we hope you enjoyed today. Do remember to like, comment, share, and of course ask your questions away with anything you're unsure that we have discussed.
Have a lovely day. Rehydrate, people.
Yeah.